Who had no driver's license when joining the cast? Did the crew really drop cars out of a plane? And how did The Rock and Vin's real-life feud affect the fate of the Furious? Hi, I'm Dylan. Let's do a short recap of the hidden facts you didn't know about the beloved franchise. No license? Can you imagine that in a movie with such crazy driving stunts, there were 2 cast members who didn't have their driver's licenses? Yep, you heard me right. Notice any hidden insecurities in the scenes? Well, if not, just pay attention to Letty and Mia. Jordana Brewster had no other choice but to take driving lessons and get her license right in New York City. Otherwise, she might have been dropped from the film because of the insurance requirements. Rodriguez faced another problem. Since she learned to drive right on the set of Fast and Furious, she didn't really have any speed limits. That's why she started getting speeding tickets shortly after obtaining her license. She commented, "I got such a bad record for speeding because I got my license for Fast and Furious. After 11 points on your license, you're like, yo, where's that Prius at? I'm dropping this M3 somewhere." Yeah, I bet starring in such a badass action franchise changes people quite radically. Battling for the title. Did you know that the franchise originally had a completely different name? For most of the filming, The Fast and the Furious was titled Red Line. According to director Rob Cohen, the producers landed on the new title right before they finished the movie. But it turned out they were still not able to use it because the rights originally belonged to director Roger Corman from his old movie of the same name. So Universal eventually convinced Corman to exchange the rights to some Universal stock footage for the rights to the title. There's one more story, but now about the 8th installment. While it was being made, production simply called it F8. This name was widely spread among fans, so they used the name endlessly on social media and online discussions about the making of the film and its release date. When the movie was finally produced and ready for release, the creators came up with the Fate of the Furious title. Here, Fate is the phonetic representation of F8, which is why the name was symbolically chosen. Offset drama affects the plot. Sometimes the tension and conflicts between some co-stars get so bad that the production team has no other choice but to solve the problem radically. That's exactly how The Rock and Vin's real-life feud affected the Fate of the Furious. The Fate of the Furious' story and marketing was built on a pretty simple hook: family no more. Hobbs and the rest of the crew are trying to take Dom down right after he went rogue. It was kind of The Rock vs. Vin Diesel round 2, and to be honest, the trick worked out perfectly. Judging by the box office, a lot of fans were very into it. However, have you ever noticed that the 2 co-stars don't share a single scene? How is that even possible, you might think? Well, I think it's safe to assume that production on the film was pretty troubled. Just by seeing The Rock's Instagram post calling out Vin Diesel as a candy ass, you can't deny that things must have been intense. Actually, if you're gonna rewatch Fate with this fact in mind, I bet you'll find it pretty hilarious how the film strains to keep the 2 of them apart. However, some of that bad blood gave the story a new touch though, but I really doubt director Felix Gray enjoyed being in between the fire of 2 feuding divas. Hidden movie references. Today, the Fast and the Furious franchise is one of the most popular summer blockbuster movies in the world. But back when the trend for action started, there was only Steven Spielberg's Jaws. The movie is widely considered the first true summer blockbuster. The creators of The Fate of the Furious decided to pay credit to the original movie that kick-started the whole era. Near the end of the movie, when the submarine tears out of the ice and chases after the heroes and their cars, one of the characters remarks, "We're gonna need a bigger truck," which is a direct reference to Jaws' epic line,
"You're gonna need a bigger boat."
However, Steven Spielberg was not the only one to get a shout-out from the franchise. Have you noticed the reference to the Marvel Universe? Pay attention to the fact that Kurt Russell plays a government agent called Mr. Nobody, who in The Fate of the Furious, while referring to his base of operations, calls the hideout Nowhere. This is a hidden reference to the MCU's Guardians of the Galaxy series, or, to be precise, to the floating space city Nowhere. Not surprising, as both Vin Diesel and Kurt Russell appeared in the Marvel movie series. Dropping cars out of a plane. While watching all of the insane stunts and tricks, it's pretty easy to get lost in what's made with graphics and special effects and what is actually filmed. One of the scenes that still gets a lot of questions is when the crew drives out of a cargo plane in midair, then parachutes to a remote mountain road in order to hijack a convoy. And maybe you'll be surprised, but the filmmakers really dropped cars out of a plane to film the scene. Insane! Skydivers had to follow the cars out to get the shot. In case you were wondering, one car at the end was destroyed in the attempt because its parachute didn't open. Amount of victims. Well, while watching the franchise, you must have probably wondered, how many cars have they crashed, dropped out of somewhere, and blown up? The number is obviously big, especially after all these years, but no one is certain of the exact total. One of the most enduring fan jokes about the Fast and the Furious is that there need to be additional steel plants set up across America to mass produce the number of tricked out vehicles that are constantly blown up on screen in every single installment. However, they are just jokes because the franchise makers have found much more reasonable ways to use and reuse their cars. For example, there is a scene in the movie where we see a car graveyard of sorts, filled with the broken mechanical leftovers of many cars spread out lifelessly. That's where the producers found a proper use for the cars that were blown up and crushed during the infamous New York mass car collision scene. Basically, they reused, let's say, already messed up props instead of using all new cars for this sequence. Replacing Brian? A lot of fans assumed that the appearance of the Little Nobody character might have been created to fill the place of Brian after Paul Walker passed away. You can easily notice similarities between the two characters. Like Brian, Little Nobody works for the government and is a by-the-books kind of guy until he meets Dom and his team, which leads him to loosen up a bit. He also has a preference for the kind of cars that Brian used to like to drive, and the same passion for Brian's signature blue colors of vehicles. And of course, both characters are often mocked for their pretty boy good looks. However, the fans and team's void from the loss of Paul Walker never really healed. The team has paid tribute to him multiple times, including the last scene of The Fate of the Furious, when Dom declared to his family that his newborn son would be named Brian. It was a really touching moment which actually took place in real life afterwards. To honor Paul's memory, Vin Diesel named his newborn Pauline. He said of the moment his daughter was born, "There's no other person I'm thinking about as I'm cutting the umbilical cord. I knew he was there and I felt like, a way to keep his memory a part of my memory, a part of my world." Messed up timeline. If you think that the Star Wars timeline is complicated, I got some news for you. They're not the only one with a pretty messed up timeline. What if I told you that you've been watching the whole Fast and Furious franchise movies all wrong? That's right, the films aren't released in chronological order. While the first two movies laid down the foundation for the franchise, it turns out that the third installment, Tokyo Drift, is not the third movie in the storyline. A reboot to the series, which started with the fourth movie, altered the order. An additional credit scene after the sixth movie flipped the series on its head. However, the upcoming part may bring its own corrections to this timeline. If you've seen Hobbs and Shaw, there are some hints that the movie may take place before Fast 9. If so, we wouldn't be surprised since Fast 9 was originally supposed to come out in 2019 before getting delayed. Wait, not so fast, there's even more to know. If you've only watched the movies we've just mentioned, you've probably missed out two more official Fast shorts. First one, the turbocharged prelude for Too Fast, Too Furious, shows how Brian winds up in Miami in the second film. The second one, Los Bandoleros, was directed by Vin Diesel himself. It's a precursor to the fourth Fast and Furious, which tells the story of Dom and Han, and sets up the oil heist at the very start of the film. Congrats, now you're all set. This was not scripted. While the plot of the series has grown increasingly more ridiculous and fun over the years, what helps to keep fans' attention is that the actors take each new absurd twist in the story completely seriously. Yet everyone is human after all, and even the most professional actors can break occasionally. Remember a scene between Hobbs and Shaw where Hobbs makes a promise to his frenemy?
And I'm gonna knock your teeth so far down your throat you're gonna stick a toothbrush right up your ass to brush them.
The two then start laughing. Of course, this was not a part of the script, but the moment Jason Statham burst into laughter in the middle of the scene upon hearing the threat and Dwayne Johnson surprisingly followed, the mood seemed so organic that the director eventually decided to keep it raw in the movie. And that wasn't the only situation where The Rock's improvisation skills helped the plot. Remember at the end of Fast and Furious 6 when Roman makes the mistake of teasing Hobbs about his baby oil? And right in the middle of the scene, Dwayne improvised this line?
Hey, Mia, you better hide your baby oil. I'm just playing.
You better hide that big-ass forehead.
I was just joking.
That phrase was absolutely unscripted and turned out so unexpectedly funny that Ludacris's spit-take reaction made the scene even more hilarious and genuine, as was, we can assume, Tyrese's sulky expression. The Rock's past as the People's Champ during the WWF Attitude Era is considered to be good not only for his muscles and ability to kick asses, it also helped him to develop an insane ability to verbally cut down anyone who stands in his way. Fans assume that's one of the reasons why a part of The Rock's movie star appeal is his ability to produce a quick improvised insult and make it look absolutely effortless. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed, go watch even more of our Fast and Furious videos. And as always, stay awesome.